All right, hey YouTube, how you doing? It's Max. So I haven't really done a lot of um, work on this game in the past couple days. It was like an 8:11, I think, the last time I made a video, and the last time I really made notes on it. But before I start working on it today, I want to kind of review what I did after making the video. So I did a lot of work on the classes. I think I'm going to start with these 6 classes. And one of the things that I kind of want to do is this system where you have a main class and subclasses, and I'll probably go into this a little bit more into the when I kind of show you the gameplay, because there's kind of this main class system and then a subclass system. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but just kind of worked on like the stats and the balancing for that. I can probably bring up here. So what I was kind of doing for stats and balancing, I have the 6 classes. When I say fantasy, it's like recording like what I want the gameplay to feel like without any coding. So like a tank is for absorbing damage. Support is gonna be healing and buffs. Rogue is gonna be fast, maybe some quick damage and some debuffs. Fighter is just kind of like a stat checker kind of thing. Ranger might be a little bit more multi-attack, some HP percentage damage. So I'm thinking like fighter's just gonna like feel like you hit him once or something, it does a lot of damage. Ranger, you might be a little bit more strategic in trying to do HP percentage, so maybe a little bit more situational. And then mage is going to be your generic magic attack user, lots of damage and some utility. I was kind of recording some stats, so like this is kind of planning out, who's going to have the most max HP, going to be the tank. You see the rogue probably with the least HP, that kind of stuff. This is kind of planning out weapons and armor, so I was thinking maybe I'll just change the weapons so that each class gets their own weapons. And how this is going to play in with the subclass kind of thing is that if you're like a ranger support, you can use ranged and support weapons. Or if you're a melee support, you have the melee stats, the support stats, but you can also use support weapons or melee weapons. So it's very interchangeable. If you wanted to be like a mixed attack damage, you could do melee magic, and you have your melee weapons and your magic weapons at your disposal. And so I was thinking about how you could, you know, would each class kind of grow individually? So each character might be like you could have a character that's level 20 in melee, or in a character that the same character is level like 15 in magic. So their melee will be good, and they might be like level 1 in support, right? So something like that, or if I just want to keep it all the same and they can interchange. So it would just be one flat level, and it doesn't matter if they're using melee or magic, they're the same level. Not sure how I want to do that yet, but those are just some ideas. Some armor. So I was thinking maybe only the tank gets access to tank armor. So if you want to be extra tanky, as sort of like a balancing thing, so you're not using like in order to make a tanky character, you have to invest in the tank as a subclass or a main class. And then in order to use magic armor, you have to invest in either mage or support. So planning out those kinds of things. For balancing, I was kind of ranking each letter. So like an A would be a 5, a B would be a 4, a C would be a 3, D would be 2, and E would be 1, and kind of adding them all up to 25 to see if I could get a balance. So a spread of rankings, but having them all equal about 25, making sure everyone kind of some classes are a little bit more average, and then some are kind of a little bit more like the rogue is very good at some things, but like then very bad at other things. Um, and then I'm just thinking about like for AI balancing target rate. So which classes are going to get targeted the most? I think for the player's favor, it might be best if the tanks have the highest target rating. So that they'll have access to like taunts and provokes and stuff like that. But I think that just in general, having a tank on your team should be kind of should reward the player that AI will focus the tanks and not your rogue. So that if you have a rogue on your team, they'll be the least targeted, and also they'll have high evasion. So even if the AI attacks the rogue, there's a benefit of having a rogue as a status condition because it will increase your evasion rate. So like a tanky rogue uh, might have a lot of 10% evasion total, um, and then it will kind of balance out, so there'll be kind of 100% target rate. So I don't know. These are just some ideas, and then hit rate. I kind of like it all at 95% right now, so it gives a little bit of a chance to fail, but it's not going to be very frequently. And then I also have another kind of system operating in the background that will give it will slightly increase this because it will favor all the percentages slightly in the player's favor. So it might be more like 96, 97% hit accuracy. Whereas if an enemy had this, it might be like 93, 94% accuracy. So just a little things with the classes. Going back, we worked on enemy stats and skills balancing, and all that really kind of means is that if we go into here, I was kind of playing around with these stats. So I kind of like the 15 to start, and there's going to be this thing with enemies kind of gaining. What is it? I have this plugin called enemy levels that I was looking at, and if I can find it, so enemy levels here, and pretty much um, in the general things, I have the enemies kind of averaging at the party's level. So if you have your all your this will kind of help with an open world kind of vibe. So if you have your parties between like 20 and 30, then all the enemies will be probably an average of that, so around 25, um, give or take, depending on what the disparity is. So like if you have one person who's like level 100 or level 99, because that's the maximum level, and then everyone else is level 1, if you have 10, or if you have the four people in your party who are out fighting, one's at 99, the other at level 1, then the average level of the enemies is going to be like 25. So only one of your guys is really going to be useful against in that fight. So I think this mechanic is going to be help keep the fights feeling um, like they're scaling with your party, and kind of prevent you from kind of only training one person, like in Pokemon how you would only train like one person. So if you get to a certain point, you're not like collecting anybody. Um, you're not balancing out your team. I don't know what I'm saying, but pretty much like that was just kind of like an idea, since this was like an option to do average level. Um, let's see. I think there was something else I was talking about. Classes. So there was a class change system here, and I forget exactly where it is, but there's multi-class settings, so we could do up to 10 subclasses. I don't think that's way too much, but pretty much just having these subclasses, I'll show you in the game actually, it might be a little bit easier to see just how you can kind of multi-class. Um, was there anything else that we were talking about here? We were talking about skills balancing. So skills balancing, pretty much I started making some basic skills. So just kind of doing the math here. Um, I have to change this to don't use to none. But pretty much these are going to be synchronized with weapons. So if we go into like the weapons, you have the training club. It's going to automatically give the player character the attack skill of club attack, which is here. So this is going to be the basic attack, and um, actually, I think I might have said that wrong. So the attack skill is going to be club attack. I should probably remove this so it's not showing up. This is going to be your basic attack, and then club crush is going to be the the skill that costs some mana but does more damage. So these single target damage, they're all going to cost 10 mana, but they're going to do 2.5 times your attack instead of 1.5 times your attack. So these ones don't do as much damage, but they're free to use. So right off the bat, this is kind of an easy way to introduce the player to choice in what they can do. So either do a free attack that doesn't cost anything, but not that much damage, or an attack that almost does twice the amount of damage, costs mana, and even has a one-turn cooldown here. So that's just going to be a generic thing, I think, for all of these training weapons. And so if you are multi-classing, for example, I think the club is the tank weapon, and you wanted to be like a mage as well, you could get one of these magic staffs, and you'd have access to magic damage, or these tank um, these tank skills. So that's kind of how I think I'm going to do it. All the weapons and armor are going to be just come with preset skills, and then I might have some items similar to TMs in Pokemon where you could actually train the character certain skills and abilities as well on top of that. At least that's the plan right now. We'll see if that actually ends up being the final result. Um, Worked on region IDs for encounters. So pretty much all this kind of means is that if you're traveling in, this is like a route, like similar to Pokemon, you'll see that all these red squares are labeled with the number one. And so pretty much if you go into um, this red area, you have a chance of going encountering like a random encounter. So kind of how I have this is that if you follow these like paths from town to town, you can avoid all encounters. But if you want to, fight something, you go off the path and you have a chance to encounter something. And I think how I want to do this is just to kind of keep it a little bit more realistic that they're able to travel from one place to place. Um, there aren't going to be that many encounters on the road, but once you start going off the path, there's going to be slightly dangerous stuff, and then the further you go off the path, you'll run into more dangerous things. So I'd consider the wilderness this part right off of the path, but if you go into like a cave, um, then you'll probably find even more dangerous threats and more rewarding treasures. So I think that's kind of how I want to balance random encounters, just because I hate you're trying to go from town to town in a lot of games, and you just run into a lot of random encounters. So I think this will help mitigate that, make it feel a bit more like connected, like people can get from place to place without running into stuff, but there still is some danger threat in the world. Is kind of the vibe I'm going with. So regional names, I forget exactly what that is referring to. Should probably be a bit more specific, but yeah, I'm not really sure what regional names are. Um, and then what was the other one? Going to start documenting. Oh, I know what regional names are. And then going to start documenting common events, switches, and variables. So in the Airtable over here, regional names is referring to this, where I've started to write down. I made a MOAT video a while ago about random generating name tables. So I have these names kind of set up. So male names, female names, and then surnames. And I think this is going to be how I name a lot of the NPCs. So um, I'll probably, like I think the goal is to name everybody something. So even the shopkeepers and like the people like that, just give them like a name that's kind of fitting of the region. So I kind of pick these names. Like these are all kind of like European kind of names, like Christopher and Rowan and Harrison, Theodore, all that. You got Morgan, Robin, Leah, Kayla, just kind of like some generic European, not European, but like English names, I guess. Zilla is kind of something that it's from something else, but because I wanted that to be a name in this region. But that kind of vibe. And then these are kind of more like Italian, Spanish names. I think there might be some Greek influence in here as well. These are going to be a bit more like Scandinavian names. These ones are a bit more like Eastern European. So that kind of stuff. We'll start naming people in the towns, NPCs, and stuff like that. Variables, switches, and common events. I don't have a lot of stuff in there currently, but pretty much all these, like if we go into here, these are the switches. So pretty much like when we were creating that minimum viable product with, the I guess all the different, like once you defeat this boss, then the switch turns on. Once you do this action, this switch turns on, etc. I'm gonna start documenting all these into like a spreadsheet format. So if I need to reference them, I can do that a little bit easier than having to go into this kind of system. And that will be very important as I start creating quests and pretty much gates to unlock new areas, stuff like that. So that's the switches, and then variables. This is going to be a lot of like keeping track of rapport. If you remember, I forget if I showed you about that dungeon where you're moving the boulder. There's a mechanic where you have to keep track of the player's coordinates and the boulder's coordinates. So that's what these are. So just making sure that I remember that this is going to be variable 11, variable 12, etc. So that will come in handy. And then another one that will come in handy is for common events. And this was kind of things like, how we're teleporting around, and you want to, you know, I guess like there's like a line of code that you want to repeat over and over again, such as like when we were doing that jumping thing over the cliffs in this test, where if I can find it, the route test where you're jumping over. I might change this code to make it a little bit more efficient with plugins, but this is just an example how I had to copy and paste this, and it's pretty much just saying common event jump down, and it's common event 7. So I'm going to make a spreadsheet that kind of, keeps track of the ID. 7 equals the common event jump down, that kind of thing. And so, we'll have a lot of common events, we'll have a lot of variables, and we'll have a lot of switches that we need to constantly reference. So that's why I'm just going to use these 3 kind of sub spreadsheets to uh, record that information. Um, Coming up, I really want to do a lot with enemies. So if I can find it here, I was kind of coming up with a lot of different ideas based on like the topography. So like ocean, hills, forest, desert. Because right now I only have, where are they? I only have like orc and shroom as enemies, but I want to make a lot more diversity in the types of creatures you'll be encountering. So that was just kind of like an ideas board, and then I'll actually have a database here that keeps track of all their stats and where you can find them, what skills they have, how much EXP and gold, what kind of item drops they have, all that kind of stuff, and race element. So hopefully this will be very fleshed out, their ID number. Um, so, you know, this is kind of a lot of spreadsheets, as you can see, but it's, I guess, a lot of assets to overall manage for the game. But we're making good progress. I'll see what images we've got, what assets we've got, and just make characters accordingly. Oh yeah, before we end here, we're about 18 minutes in. I'll go in and show you kind of, I guess, probably a mock battle as well as the class system. So if we go in here, you can see the class. Um, there's a class button, all these different buttons. And right now, Val is currently a tank, but we can make her a ranger, or we can make her a mage. And you can do all these kinds of class changes in here. I don't know if I'm going to make this kind of like a place where you have to unlock all this stuff before you can do this, probably, most likely, but just for testing right now, it's easy if it's already pre-unlocked. And it shows you the skills that you can use and the weapons you can use. So if she's a tank, I can do a subclass of ranger. So she can be a tanky ranger, or she can be a tanky support, or a tanky fighter. So a lot of customization options. You can see the stats kind of adjusting over here to the left as we're kind of changing these classes. So that's kind of what that is. And then I'll show you like a quick battle that we've got right now. And so this is all level 1. If I can run into someone, there we go. So they have the goblins have some decent speed to start, so they're always going to probably get chip damage on you. But they're not going to do tons of your health. So if you do a dagger attack, that does still decent amount of damage, because these are like very grunt level, easy to kill things. But if you do like a bow shot, this should do a lot more damage. I guess the ranger doesn't have as much attack as the rogue, and I think this guy resisted it, I think it said. And then the support here, they aren't going to have a whole lot of attack, so we'll see how much they do. So they don't do a whole lot, but this ranger. Oh, I changed her class, so she currently doesn't have any ranger skills because she doesn't have a bow equipped. But she, so that's why those are kind of messed up. There might be a bit of a learning curve that I'll have to do there, but you can see it says unarmed, so like a tutorial to kind of explain this. But when you don't have any weapons that cater to what you have, you'll do an unarmed strike, which I guess still did a lot of damage because she has a high attack power or something. But the rogue dagger, or the rogue will have the rogue skills. They have the dagger equipped, so they'll do the dagger stab, and that does a lot. You'll see the items kind of drop. This screen pops up that shows you the experience that you get in the job points, and these job points will cater towards, I guess, like different class level ups. I don't know if I want to keep them or not, but we have them for now. You get the healing potion 20 or the healing vial 20. So that's just kind of where we're at right now. But we'll make some progress today, see where we get, and I guess I'll catch you all in the next update. Take it easy. Have a good one. Later days.